A woman rose from the shadows to seize the emperor's throne, crushing anyone who dared to stand in her way. Some say she was a bloodthirsty tyrant. Others say she was a brilliant ruler who brought China to its golden age. But who exactly was Wu Zetian? A monster? A mastermind? Or something far more dangerous? Stick around. Let's find out. You guys, it's literally my birthday! I've been so excited. I've been dancing since I woke up. Bear with me, okay? I'm literally filming this on my birthday. Just for you. Because I like you. Anyways, today we're talking about Wu Zetian. You guys have been asking me to talk about her since last month. I just had to do my research first, okay? Anyways, I did my research and I found a way to summarize it and make it into my style a little bit. So let's get into it, shall we? Born in 624 CE, Wu Zetian entered the world in a time when women were expected to be seen but not heard. But little did anyone know that this little baby girl would grow up to shatter every norm and become China's first and only female emperor. Her father, Wu Shihua, started as a timber merchant and amassed considerable wealth, and that allowed the family to live very comfortably. After a couple years, Wu Zetian's father became a military official, and since he became a military official, that helped elevate the family's status even more. Now, her mother, Lady Yang, was from a noble family, so with her father being a military official and her mother being from a noble family, it gave Wu Zetian a taste of wealth and political connections. So it's safe to say the family wasn't poor at all. They were actually very well off financially and socially. And because of that, Wu Zetian was given a very rare education. And when I say rare, I mean she was given a different type of education than what girls in that time would usually get. She was taught to read, write, and she was even trained in politics and philosophy. It is said that from a young age, Wu was very ambitious, clever, and unafraid to speak her mind. So if you were thinking that Wu Zetian was just, a proper little lady like everybody else, think again. So, back in those days, in ancient China, if your family was well off and had great connections and close ties to the noble family, I don't know if fortunately or unfortunately in this case, but if you were a little girl, like our friend Wu Zetian here, you would be automatically recruited to become one of the emperor's concubines. Yay! The recruitment process for imperial concubines in ancient China was a highly structured and elaborate affair, especially during the Tang Dynasty. Here's how it worked. Candidates were usually selected from noble or influential families. Although beautiful and talented women from less prominent backgrounds could also be chosen sometimes, which means nobody was safe, okay? No one is safe. If you're rich, you're definitely getting chosen. If you're poor, but you're pretty, definitely getting chosen. If you're poor and talented, can you imagine? Back in those days, being the emperor's concubine was actually an honor. Like, you would have so many advantages when you were the emperor's concubine. Obviously, it wouldn't offer you a legal status as a wife, but you would still get a lot of benefits, a lot of advantages just by being a concubine. So it was actually something that people were looking forward to. So the emperor's officials would just go out there on a random day and just look for girls. Whichever girl they found that they deemed worthy of being a concubine, they would just bring her in. They would normally look for girls between the ages of 13 years old and 16 years old. Those were like the perfect ages to become a concubine or to get recruited to become a concubine. And when they were looking to recruit someone, they were looking for if the person is beautiful, if the person is poised, if they have good education, what's their family background, do they have any criminal charges? I'm just kidding. You know, it was like a job interview. So for the initial screening, some families would be recommended by influential officials or straight up summoned by imperial decree. And when your family is summoned by imperial decree, if you don't show up, you're in trouble. Okay? It's not the same as being recommended, because it's like they want you. You gotta show up. You gotta be there. You can't be like, oh no, I'm sick, I'm gonna show up next week. Or like, oh no, the emperor is so ugly, like I don't wanna be a concubine. Girl, are you okay? If you don't show up, if your whole family doesn't show up, guess what? Your grandma, your daddy, your mommy, your dog, your cat, they're all gonna get killed, including you. So you have to show up. So after everybody has been scouted, everybody has been recruited, and the officials are like, okay, these are all the people that we think are worth it, whether you were recommended by an official or you were summoned by imperial decree, all of you guys will show up at the palace. And once you get to the palace, you will undergo a number of assessments just to determine your appearance, your demeanor, basic skills. Are you smart? Are you kind? Are you pretty? Do you know how to walk? Stuff like that. And if you pass those initial assessments, you will then be presented to court. I'm guessing if you don't pass, you just get sent home, right? Yeah. In disgrace back to your family. But if you do pass those assessments, then you are taken to be presented in court. They would dress you up, get some makeup on you, give you lavish, luxurious clothes, put some perfume on you, do your hair, you know, make you look pretty. And then you would go in front of the court and you would have to showcase your beauty and your grace. They would make you walk, bow, and if you had any talents, you would have to showcase those talents in front of the emperor and his court. It's sounding like Miss Universe or something, right? Yeah, right? It sounds so familiar to Miss Universe, but okay. Yeah, so basically you're performing and showing off your talents, and the emperor and his officials will be looking at you and just rating you based on what performance or whatever talents, or just rating you based on what they think about you. So imagine you're like standing there, you're nervous, you're like, I don't know, 14 years old, you have to perform, and you're like, okay, my talent is singing. And they're like, okay, what are you gonna sing for us? And you're like, Mary had a little lamb. And then you start singing, and then they're like writing here, they're like, and you're done singing, and you're just like, oh my God, that was actually pretty good. And then they're just like, yeah, A for effort, babe, but don't do that again. I would never sing in my life ever again. Can you imagine? I mean, some of these girls had been prepared for this moment their whole life. Especially the girls that came from low-class families. I mean, I don't even want to imagine the amount of pressure that their families were putting on them. Like, Rebecca, you need to become the emperor's concubine, okay? If you don't, we're all gonna starve, okay? No pressure, babe. Do your best. But just remember, we might starve if you don't do it. Okay, let's get back to it. So after you would, present yourself in court and, perform or whatever, if you were chosen, you would move on to the next step, which was an even more intensive evaluation where they would examine you for your education, your physical health, and your etiquette. Like, I'm guessing they would ask you like really hard questions. They would probably check, your physical health to see if you have anything wrong or any like marks, blemishes, like just, oh my gosh. So after that rigorous exam where they would literally check for everything, your intelligence, your education, just every single thing about you. If you passed and they deemed that you were worthy and you had good physical health, you were great education, smart, loyal, whatever, you would now go to the next step, which was ranking and assignment. So once you're selected, you would be ranked based on your looks, your skills, your family connections, your education. And once that was done, if you ranked high or you were a high ranking girl, they would give you more significant titles and responsibilities. And if you ranked really low, they would start you at the bottom and you would be called a Chiron. And that's exactly where our friend Wu Zetian ended up. You would think that because she was so smart, she would have probably ranked high, but nah, apparently she ranked low. So she started off at the bottom as a Chiron. So for all new concubines, they underwent rigorous training and very, very strict. They were taught about palace protocol, etiquette, and obviously how to serve the emperor. They were also taught how to navigate the highly dangerous and competitive court environment. So they were just taught all the nits and secrets about how to survive in court. And also how to serve the emperor, because that's the only reason you're there. Okay? So like I said before, Wu Zetian's entry as a concubine was very, very low. She was a low-ranking concubine, but her intelligence and her ability to read political dynamics would eventually become her biggest strength. And just like that, at the age of 14 years old, Wu Zetian was selected to become a concubine to Emperor Taizong. During her days in the palace as a concubine, our friend Wu Zetian wasn't acting like a normal concubine, as in she wasn't acting the way all the other ones were acting. She wasn't spending time practicing her makeup skills or perfecting how to play instrument or how to cook. Oh no, that's boring. You know what Wu Zetian was doing? She spent her time studying and observing court dynamics. And the emperor noticed, Emperor Taizong noticed that Wu Zetian was not like every other concubine. He was like, you're a weird one. He noticed her intelligence and he made her his secretary. Obviously, she didn't have like the actual title of secretary, but basically what it was is that he had her come with him to court and sit down and just watch what was going on in court on a daily basis. And that gave her a front row seat to the cutthroat world of imperial power. Now, Emperor Taizong died in 649 CE, and our friend Wu was actually expected to shave off her hair and retire to a Buddhist convent and become a nun, as was tradition. And when I was reading this, I was like, I was shocked, but apparently once an emperor dies, all of his concubines are expected to go to a Buddhist convent, shave off their head, and become nuns. That was the tradition. Like, they're not allowed to be with anyone else. They need to go, shave their head, and become nuns. And that's exactly what they were expecting Wu Zetian to do. But she was just like, yeah, no. I'm not doing that. Instead, she caught the eye of Taizong's son, who was now the new emperor, and his name was Gaozong. Now here's where the whole situation gets a bit scandalous, okay? Emperor Gaozong, who was the son of the late emperor, brought Wu Zetian back as his concubine. And I know you're saying like, okay, she was a concubine before, like why can't she be his concubine? Technically, she was his father's widow. Now, did people talk? Were rumors being spread around? Oh, absolutely. It was weird back then and now. Like, they were just looking at him like, Emperor, what are you doing? That's your father's widow. What are you doing? I mean, this was scandal level 9,000. The people just did not understand. But our friend Wu, she didn't care, okay? She didn't care about the rumors. She was just getting started. Once she was back in the palace, Wu set her sight on becoming the Empress. She was like, I like that position. I want that position. I'm gonna get that position. Yeah, there was just a little tiny itty bitty problem, just a tiny problem. Emperor Gaozong already had an empress. He already had a wife. Empress Wang. And then he also had a very powerful concubine, consort Xiao. 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 I hope I said that right. Xiao, right? Consort Xiao. I'm trying here, okay? Give me some grace. So obviously, those two were a big problem, okay? They had to go. I mean, Wu Zetian wasn't just gonna let two women stand in her way. These are her dreams we're talking about. According to historians, Wu Zetian orchestrated the most chilling, the most evil power play in history. What did she do? Well, let me tell you. Apparently, Wu Zetian had her own daughter murdered and then framed Empress Wang and consort Xiao for the murder of her child. I'm sorry, I don't think you understood that. She had her daughter murdered and then framed Empress Wang and consort Xiao for the murder of her child. What does history say about this? Well, some historians say that it was pure fabrication and that she indeed did not have her daughter murdered, but that, maybe the poor child just died of, sickness or asphyxiation or whatever, and she just used that to gain power. We don't know. I don't know. I'm just the messenger, so I don't know. And since we don't know, let's go ahead and give her some grace and say that the kid probably just died from whatever cause and she just went ahead and used that to her advantage. Whether this horrific event was true or not, it worked. I mean, Emperor Gaozong was so horrified by what he was hearing that it caused him to strip Empress Wang and consort Xiao of all their titles. And then he had them imprisoned and eventually executed. And after he had Empress Wang and consort Xiao executed, he made Wu Zetian his new empress. And now that she had that title, she had no intentions of ever letting it go. When Emperor Gaozong's health began to decline, Wu Zetian started pulling the strings behind the scenes. By 655 CE, Wu Zetian was the real power in the empire, ruling as the de facto leader while Gaozong was just a mere puppet. Wu Zetian surrounded herself with spies, she executed her enemies, and purged anyone she considered a threat. And our friend Wu Zetian, she wasn't just ruthless, she was incredibly competent. I mean, I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand, right? You can't be ruthless and dumb. And while she did get a reputation for being ruthless and cruel, she did do some nice things for the country. I mean, she reformed the education system. She even promoted capable officials regardless of their birth and their social status, and she also made Buddhism the state religion to legitimize her rule, of course. And she even declared herself as the reincarnation of Buddha. Because why not? In 690 CE, Wu Zetian took the ultimate step. She forced her own sons to abdicate and then declared herself Emperor of China. Yes, you heard that right. Emperor, not Empress. She also founded the Zhou dynasty, which is the only dynasty in Chinese history to be ruled by a woman. For over a decade, Wu Zetian ruled with an iron fist, crushing rebellions, executing rivals, and expanding the empire's borders. But as she aged, her paranoia grew. She started trusting astrologers. She even exiled her own children, and she executed anyone who she suspected of treason or just plotting against her. And mind you, this would literally go off her suspicion. So you could be chilling in your house, minding your own business, and if she's like, oh, John looked at me weird yesterday, he must be plotting against me. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and execute him. And you would be eating your soup at home, chilling, having time with your family, and then out of nowhere, just because you looked weird or you wore pink or who knows what, you're now getting arrested and executed for treason. By 705 CE, the court had had enough. I wonder what was the last straw. Was it her being paranoid and just executing everyone just because she was suspicious of them, or what was it? I feel like it was her just executing people out of sheer suspicion, because it's like they were probably like, oh my gosh, like she needs to go. She needs to be stopped. She's going to kill us all. She's gonna execute us all, okay? Nobody's safe. She needs to go. I don't know. I want to know what was the last straw for the court to be like, okay, babe, you need to go. Wu was overthrown in a palace coup and forced to abdicate in favor of her son. So basically, they were telling her, like, babe, Wu, baby, listen, we love you, girl. We love you, but it's time for you to go. You know, let your son take care of things. You can go rest now because you're just doing too much. You need help. Which, honestly, I wouldn't be mad. Like, that's my son, so it's like, okay. But I don't know how she felt about that. Wu Zetian died later that year at the age of 81, still as formidable and feared as ever. Wu Zetian is one of the most controversial figures in Chinese history. So, what do you think? Was Wu Zetian a power-hungry tyrant who murdered her way to the throne? Or was she a brilliant strategist who broke every glass ceiling in her path? Either way, she didn't let anyone forget her name or who she was. And just like that, it's the end of this video. I just wanted to say thank you so much for staying with me and learning about Wu Zetian. I'm not really sure what we're gonna talk about next Sunday. I'm just gonna leave it up there. Like, if you guys have any recommendations, that would be great. Send them my way. And if not, then I'll just figure it out next Sunday. But anyways, please stay safe and have a wonderful week. I'll see you next Sunday. Bye!